Today, we're going to talk about something that's honestly more important than any single piece of code or software. We're talking about the invisible line that separates a cybercriminal from a cybersecurity professional. Because it's not just about what you can do with a computer, it's about what you choose to do. It's the code of conduct, the ethics behind the keyboard.
So let me ask you a question. When you hear the word hacker, what's the first image that pops into your head? For most people, it's some shadowy figure in a hoodie, right? Hunched over a laptop in a dark room. But you know what? That's really just a Hollywood cliché. The reality is way more complicated and, frankly, way more interesting. The real difference between hackers comes down to three basic things: why they do it, if they have permission, and what their personal code of ethics looks like. And this table here really lays it all out. On one side, you've got your black hats. These are the bad guys, the cyber criminals you see in the news. They're in it for money or just to cause chaos. Then, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, you have the white hats. We call them ethical hackers. These are the professionals who get hired by companies to break into their systems so they can find the weaknesses and fix them. And then, you've got this fascinating middle ground, the gray hats. They kind of walk a tightrope between both worlds, and we'll come back to them later.
So what is it that really separates these different hats? Well, it all boils down to a few core ethical principles, and we're going to start with the absolute bedrock of the entire profession: confidentiality. This is all about guarding digital secrets.
Confidentiality sounds technical, but it's a super simple idea. It's about keeping secrets secret. Think of it like a digital vault for your most sensitive data. It's the promise that your private messages, your credit card numbers, your entire digital life is for your eyes only.
And this is where you can really see the difference in action. It's like two sides of the exact same coin. A black hat hacker uses their skills to build, say, a phishing attack to steal your passwords. But a white hat, they use that very same knowledge to find the security hole that would let that phishing attack work in the first place, and then they help patch it up. It's the same technical skill, just guided by a completely different moral compass.
Okay, so having a strong ethical code is one massive piece of the puzzle. But the other, equally important piece, is the law. A real cybersecurity pro has to play by the rules. They operate within a very strict legal framework. A cybercriminal? Well, by definition, they don't. And this quote just hits the nail on the head. The actual act of finding a weakness in a system, that's not automatically good or bad. It's an action. The thing that makes all the difference in the world is permission. I mean, are you breaking in because the owner asked you to find their weak spots? Or are you breaking in to steal from them? That's the line between a security expert and a felon.
Just think back to the WannaCry ransomware attack. It was a global nightmare. It shut down hospitals, crippled businesses, and caused billions of dollars in damage. Total chaos. Now, compare that to a white hat hacker who's paid good money to launch a simulated attack against a company. Their entire job is to find the exact kind of vulnerability that would let something like WannaCry get in, and then help the company lock that door for good. One is digital terrorism, the other is professional protection.
So we've got ethics and we've got the law. But here's a tricky question. In the digital world, how do you prove who did what? When things can be so anonymous, how do you make sure people are held accountable for their actions? Well, that's where a really critical, if kind of fancy-sounding, principle comes into play. It's called non-repudiation.
I know, non-repudiation is a mouthful. But the idea behind it is incredibly simple. You can't deny what you did. It's like a digital fingerprint. It's a way to create a verifiable, undeniable record of what happened, which is absolutely essential for any kind of professional accountability. You know, it's something a pro relies on and a criminal runs from.
So how does this actually work? Well, it's all thanks to some really clever tech involving what's called a private key and a public key. Imagine your private key is something only you have. You use it to digitally sign your work. Then anyone in the world can use your public key, which, like the name says, is public, to verify that signature. If it checks out, it's mathematical proof that it came from you and no one else. It's a simple but incredibly powerful way to build trust and accountability.
Okay, so let's put this all together. We've talked about keeping secrets with confidentiality, playing by the rules with the law, and proving your actions with accountability. Now, let's see how all these powerful ideas come together in the real world to form a professional code.
And trust me, this isn't just a theory from a textbook. For someone like a Chief Information Security Officer, or CISO, these principles are the job. Their entire role is built on this ethical foundation.
They're the ones in charge of protecting confidential info, managing risk legally, and making sure the whole organization is secure and accountable. It's a huge responsibility.
And that really brings us to the main takeaway here, the big idea. The technical skills of a hacker. Look, almost anyone with enough time and motivation can learn them. But it's the solid commitment to an ethical code, to protecting secrets, to following the law, to being accountable, that transforms those skills from a potential weapon into a trusted profession.
And that brings us full circle, all the way back to that gray hat hacker in the middle. Remember them? They break the rules. They often act without permission, but sometimes they do it for what they believe are the right reasons. So what are they? Are they necessary whistleblowers exposing security flaws that companies might try to hide? Or are they just reckless vigilantes taking matters into their own hands? It's a question with no easy answer, and it's right there, on that blurry line where security ethics get really, really interesting.